Chapter 2 Eldergrain Grove. The morning would have been beautiful. Sunlight tumbled through our window, and a breeze tickled the curtain. Father slept in the fine bed across the room. My cot was tucked into the corner beneath the window. I caught the barest whiff of bacon and fresh bread. The staff was already making breakfast rounds in the hallway. We'd slept in. I swung off the cot and hurried into our sitting room. On one side sat a small table with 2 chairs along with a bench. Another wall held 3 bursting bookshelves. Elsewhere, there were a few cupboards. The middle of the room was curiously empty. I darted across the room and eased the door open. There, swaying down the hallway, was a glorious sight. The breakfast cart trundled along, laden with platters of still spitting bacon, warm bread with butter and honey, and sausage. Pitchers of juice and chilled milk. Every bump the cart rolled over made the drinks dance, the column of steam break. Someone was pulling the whole thing along. But as the cart came level with me, my eyes fell on the tiny, wispy grandmother hobbling behind the cart. "Mimi, you look wonderful." "Better than you, anyhow." Fair enough. I was not going to argue the point, especially before she'd filled our plates. "You'll take," she said severely, "what I put on your plate. You know I've been doing this for ages." I've started her again, I thought. It was best to let her tire herself out. She pointed a gnarled finger. "I've passed plates since before you were born. Your father, too. The only thing bigger than a boy's stomach is his eyes. You'd take the whole cart if I let you. What then? I'd have let your mother make her own plate. She had sense. But a boy of—" She trailed off, though this was not the first time this month I'd had to buttress her lecture. 16, I said. She thumped a bony fist on the cart. 16! Of course, you have it all figured. Well, you wouldn't last a day in the kitchen. Proper work, that'd be. We'll see how smart your tongue is when your fingers look like this." She held up her wrinkled digits threateningly. Her voice dropped. "That is, if you've still got fingers. I've seen fingers chopped. Toes, too. You might get burned, scalded, fried. My great-grandson got switched up bad while peeling potatoes. He sounds lovely," I said. I had to stop her before she really got going. "You know, I was just going to say we'll take whatever you please." "Oh," she said, face clearing in an instant. "That's a boy. Always mannered you are." She began loading up 2 plates with heaping portions. She smiled kindly. "I expect those manners are your mother's coming through, even after, well, how long has it been?" "Plates, please." My voice was starting to waver. She did not pass them. "It must be 15 years now. Yes, it's all coming back. Strange how memory comes in clumps, doesn't it? She was exiled from the city." Mimi poured our cups absently. "Was that Baroness Helna's business, or did we still have Baron Grimmick's? Helna, wasn't it?" "Stop," I said, more harshly than I wanted. I felt too light, as if I might drift away in the slightest wind. "My dear," Mimi said, "I didn't know you were still sore. You were only a baby, after all. We've talked of your mother before." "But never today," I said. A long breath, and she understood. Then 2 warm plates were in my hand, and she was guiding me to my own table. 2 glasses of milk appeared. My vision seemed to be blurring, shimmering. Mimi returned with a pair of bread rolls and slowly set to buttering them. "There's salt in the butter for a reason," she said gently. "You come down if you need anything." I was still staring at the roll when Father came. He settled into the chair beside me. "Mimi?" I nodded. I was supposed to be the one cheering him today. I cleared my throat. "I'm sorry. She just surprised me. I wasn't ready to think about Mother yet today." "Never apologize for love. Not to me. Your mother and I knew—" He coughed suddenly and took a long drink. "Knew what?" "Knew we were in love." Father organized his plate into neat piles of food. He laid a handkerchief across his lap, straightened his silverware. Finally, he looked up and smiled. I studied his face, so familiar. Tanned and angled, it was a strong face. But was the smile a little forced now? An illusion? Was he putting on a show? Protecting me? Time to return the favor. I crunched into my bacon. I, for one, am grateful for you and Mother. She must have been lovely. Even with a clod like you involved, she still made me handsome. Let us drink to that, Father said, and we did. When breakfast was done, Father said the words I always dreaded on this day. Do you remember your mother's last request? Pray for her return? Father waited. At Elder Green Grove, on her day of exile? Father nodded. Then, let's go. It was a quiet walk down the hall and onto one of the graceful, arcing bridges. From the bridge, the view of Woden was dazzling. A patchwork of streets, neighborhoods, shops, markets, and manors. Dark woods and polished stones. Morning dew blanketed it all and was ablaze with the sunlight. Everything seemed sharper today. The bridge led us toward the courtyard, from which we joined Elder Way. It was the main thoroughfare heading north from the castle. 3 times as wide as most streets, it still managed to be congested. We turned onto the street, and the swell of noise crashed on us. People stretched in a river for a mile or 2, as far as we could see. The street itself could scarcely be seen. Merchants bellowed. People shouted. Children darted through the crowd like minnows. I smelled roast boar and heard the discordant music that could always be found on Elder Way. A lutist was playing with all the precision and care of someone pulling hairs. A man, not 20 feet farther along, was slapping an overturned barrel drunkenly. Elsewhere I heard pipes and the high, sweet noise of a flute. To my left, a woman was struggling to convert a crate of bruised apples into cider. A puddle of juice lay around her little cider press. Our Lady sings at the Vale tonight, a chorus of children called. Lady at the Vale, Violet's Vale, tonight. Cheaply hired hollers were a common means to spread news. They could also be quite annoying. We ought to get a group of hollers someday, Father said. I could see where this was going. And what would they say? Anything, Father replied. And out came the half-smile that beat a roaring crowd. Our apples are mushy. I snorted. Our ladyship requires lettuce. Is anyone collecting fur balls? We amused ourselves for several minutes with various slanders, quips, and gibberish, until the way grew impossibly thick. Solid bodies. We slowed to a shuffle, squeezing forward step by step. The source of the congestion turned out to be a group of pop players. 5 in total, 2 of them held the backdrop, a painted bedsheet with the greens and muds of an abstract forest. The other 3 poppers were acting out some dramatic scene. I was too far to hear details, but it seemed one stick was a sword, while a slightly longer stick may have been a wizard's staff. The 2 were engaged in a duel that consisted mostly of facial expressions and slow, grand movements. The 5th and final player raised his stick gravely, pulling back an imaginary string. He sighted on the wizard. In one moment, the wizard realized he was caught between the sword and arrow. A sudden thunderous crack filled the air, louder and sharper than a crashing boulder, and the wizard stood proudly over the fallen knight and archer. One of the players, holding the painted sheet, was sliding some glass vial into his pocket. Clever touch, some sort of chemical reaction probably purchased from an apothecary. The investment paid off. The bubble around the entertainers popped as folk hurried forward to drop a pop into a bowl. Surprise, Father said, makes us young. A child in a wide, bright world. I saw no reason to disagree. Before long, the crowd began to thin, so slowly you hardly noticed. You didn't have to squeeze sideways through gaps. Then you began to see the rare path forward for several steps. And then the crowd began to consist of large groups, rather than one bubbling mass. Finally, it thinned to a comfortable flow. We're nearly there, Father said. We turned off Elder Way, and suddenly there were no merchants, no haulers, no players, no crowd. Instead, there was a high, black gate running around a small, dark forest in the heart of Woden. Eldergrain Grove. 2 knights in gleaming plate stood beside the entrance. These were not typical city guard. These men stood 2 heads above my father and rested their hands on the hilt easily. We'd pray, Father said. Names, the first knight rumbled. Harold Jester, Father said, and Davis Jester. You have 1 hour, the knight said. You will not touch a tree. You will not take anything from the elder grains, whether it be on the tree or the ground. Do not speak with anything in the wood. Sit only on stone. Do you understand? We do, Father said. They swung the gates open, and the other knight said, Break any of these, and we will not rescue you. We will leave you. Lovely. We entered the wood, and sound died as I stepped onto the bed of fine grass. There was a small spray of green, lush grass before the forest erupted. A few walking paths squeezed between the black trunks, but it was the canopy that drew the eyes. Nestled among the dark green leaves were apples, blackberries, apricots, pecans, and cherries. Strawberries hung like vines, and a dozen other fruits and berries shimmered among the darkness. But it was not the fruit for which these trees were guarded and worshipped. The gates locked behind us, and Father took the middle path. There was only a whisper of wind, as though the trees were breathing around us. The air was moist and sweet as a bathhouse. We moved slower than in the thickest of crowds, careful to stay on the path and avoid the limb of mangoes to our right, the crown of gooseberries overhead. We were sidling between 2 thickets when I saw the eyes. 2 luminous coins gleaming from a high branch. They blinked, pupils yellow as egg yolks. What lives here? I asked. It's of no matter to us, Father said. Remember the rules. What happens if we speak to something? We won't be finding out. If we're talking and something in here overhears, does that count? Father stopped cold. Do not make a game of today. There was nothing in his tone to belay the anger. His stance was relaxed, but I knew I'd made a mistake. Today, here, was not about my curiosity. Eldergrain Grove was not a place for small jokes. My purpose here was to support Father. I'm sorry, I told Father. I seem to be apologizing a lot lately. I'll follow your lead. He led us deeper, and suddenly the trail blossomed into a broad clearing of grass and wildflowers surrounded by the dark, fruited elder grains. In the center of the clearing stood a single tree, gray with age. It was twisted, humpbacked as an old man. A scraggle of warded walnuts was all this tree could produce. And yet, a stone bench sat before the tree. We moved closer. In the center of its trunk, at eye level, began to look strange. Some kind of hollow. Closer still, and a carved figure emerged in the heart of the tree. The High Master, carved into priceless eldergrain wood. Father bowed low, and I hurried to follow suit. I was out of practice at bowing to trees, but I managed. Father and I sat. We were close enough to see the strands carved into the shoulder-length hair of the High Master, the angle of his chin, a ripple of his cloak. I wasn't sure I'd ever seen a better carving. I could admire the artistry. And the minutes dribbled by as I noticed the finely whittled fingernails and belt buckle. No detail was overlooked. But even a perfect carving is still a chunk of wood. It was my misfortune that 3 things happened at once. First, I lost interest in my object of examination. 2, Father chose that moment to move from the stone bench to kneel directly before the tree. Third and worst was the yellow eyes returned, blinking to my right. I tried to ignore them, honestly. I stared hard at the icon of the Master, but the weight of the eyes was like ants crawling over my back. I considered telling Father. He would know what to do, but how could I distract him from the one thing Mother had asked him to do? In the end, I did what seemed best to me, as happens with most mistakes. I stood quietly, careful not to disturb Father. I was quiet as a snake as I slipped through the grass toward the yellow eyes at the edge of the clearing. I would just shoo off whatever was watching and return to Father. I could sit and stare at a tree for the rest of an hour, thinking of jokes and ways to brighten Father's day. It was the least I could do after the morning I'd given him. But when I stopped before the first of the trees, the eyes had gone out like a pinched candle. In their place was a very odd sound indeed. Something you'd never expect to hear in the heart of Eldergrain Grove. Talking. Magic is never your aegis. Mages are never your allies. The voice was exhausted, slurred. Strange words to be spoken in the dark of a wood. Words taught to every child. You'd find nobody to disagree with them publicly throughout the entire barony. Still, folk avoided the topic like, well, magic. Mango today, apple tomorrow, then grapes. So many grapes. But I must wait. Patience. Always patience. The voice sounded close, maybe a dozen steps away. If I just pushed aside a branch, I glanced behind. Father's back was to me. He was bowed in prayer. I might disturb him when I returned. I might as well stand here for a while. I eyed the foliage and shifted to the side, still thick as a fresh coat of paint. I moved farther. That's when I found the gap. Though it was only the size of a dilly, I saw something fascinating. A small glade lay behind the elder grains. A rill, only a handspan wide, gurgled across the space. The rill passed near a tree tucked into the clearing. From my angle, the tree seemed tiny, miniature, maybe up to a man's chest. Still, it bowed beneath the weight of fruit like any healthy elder grain. This was odd enough, but odder still were the dark iron rungs embedded in the trunk. Chains hung from the brackets. I stood on tiptoes and saw what the iron links imprisoned. Who they imprisoned. He was an old man, with a filthy, tangled beard that is the mark of pride or disgrace, depending on your social circle. He sat against the trunk, with the rill running just beside him. His eyes were turned toward a plump mango, growing just over his shoulder. So close. His voice pierced the stillness. His hand drifted up, and he pulled it back down. Almost ready, but wait. Do not rush now. Not after watching for days. Do not ruin it. He took 3 deep breaths, settling back into the trunk. The shadows must be playing with my eyes because the whole tree seemed to hug him, as though the trunk were indented and the branches curved around his resting place. How long has he been here? He sighed, eyes on the mango. His eyes closed, and he turned away. Magic is never your aegis. Mages are never your allies. Magic is never, he went on, voice growing sleepier and thicker with each verse of the litany. Finally, he slipped into sleep. I might still have returned to Father and left the grove without violating a rule, but I was moved with pity for this poor man. He was literally chained to a tree, rationing out his meals. I checked once more that Father was deep in prayer. I, too, wished for Mother to be able to return, for Baroness Helena to lift the exile, but I didn't need a tree. I could do it. I pushed through the elder grains. The leaves were like warmed velvet brushing my arms and face. The whole world was cloyingly soft and sweet. Lavender, citrus, peppermint, like the strongest tea kettle. I was stepping from the trees when something seized my arm. Panic spiked and I yanked hard, but my arm wouldn't budge. I thought of the glowing yellow eyes and I threw myself forward. There was a hard, biting pain across my forearm, and I was free. I dove into the glade, scrambling to escape whatever was chasing me, but there was nothing. I looked back and saw a gently swaying vine. It must have trapped my arm somehow. I took a slow breath. It was all right. Now, time to help the man. You're a sprightly lad. It was the man, of course, sounding much more alert than the drunken slur of his mantra. I was standing 5 paces from him, just outside the reach of his little tree. The rill bubbled between us. Sorry, I said. I really had to stop saying that. I had a bit of a scare. I thought something in the trees tried to grab me. It's only Luna and the birds, he said, like he was an innkeeper informing me of the dinner options. I'm afraid neither would do that for you. He nodded to my arm, which I was shocked to see. My sleeve had evidently ripped off at the elbow. A scrape ran across my forearm, red and angry. Great, now I'm bleeding. Listen, sir, I just came through to pick you some fruit. I have to get right back to Father, so what would you like to eat? That drew a dry, wheezy sound from him. I worried I'd killed the poor fellow until I saw his beard bouncing up and down in laughter. What's so funny? I wasn't sure I wanted to be in his chain range quite yet, so I pointed at a farther tree laden with fruit. What do you want? Strawberries and apples? Not for me. I paused, already halfway to the tree. The man looked in no shape to be picky. Do you want something more? Nuts? Not today, I'm afraid. Father could discover me missing any second. I have to leave, but I really wanted to help you. There's a whole tree here. What do you want? I want it all, he said. I want to hold a cup. I want meat. A bath and a shave. Everything. He sighed, and his gray, watery eyes found his mango again. But this is all I can have. Nobody's guarding you, I said. This drew another wheeze, and my patience expired. Suddenly, I was at an eldergrain, pulling down apples, grapes, pecans, oranges. I carried the heaping armload to him, and set it over the rill just at his side. Enjoy, I called over my shoulder. If someone cares, blame it on me. But there would be no enjoying. I heard cracks like branches breaking in the dead of winter, hisses like a cat. When I turned, the fruit I'd given him was gone. Instead, there was a mound of brown, shriveled lumps. Before my eyes, they disintegrated and dripped into the grass like tar. My curse, he said. It's hard to laugh when your stomach is in your throat. This was no drunken whisper of magic. This was a man chained to a tree in the heart of Woden, the grove that the entire city blossomed around. I watched the black muck bleed into the grass. It was like oil, glossy, viscous, as it pooled into the grass. And then all trace of the substance faded. My eyes were glued to that patch of pleasant green grass. There was nothing there. It didn't make any sense. I've seen that face, he said. Was that magic? The old man sighed. Was better left in stories. No, I said automatically. Then I thought about it. Every story I knew involving magic led to warts, death, or someone being stuck as a rabbit forever. There was also the permanent threat that the Kalish would sail across the mooncaps, invading Barony with magic. Folk worried they could fly across like eagles, or simply appear wherever they willed. Folk had fretted for 100 years, with hardly a single mage ever crossing the sea to keep the fear alive. At least, that's what I heard. I was proud to maintain a strict practice of neglecting my studies, which included the histories of Barony. In one of those dusty tomes, there was surely a list of each mage, magical or fraudulent, that had entered the country since the Chasm, some 500 or 1,000 years back. The date of that war was undoubtedly hidden in a book somewhere. I'd recently heard from a cobbler, however, of the last wizard to come through. The man had apparently washed up a few years ago. He'd been nearly mad and harmless as a slug. After a stint in the dungeons, he'd prattled around Woden for some time before wandering off. Not all magic ends badly, I told the man. I wished I had more details to support my argument, because his face hardened. Magic is never your aegis. Mages are never your allies. Okay, I agree, I said. He'd certainly had a bad go of it, considering the curse and all. How'd you get here, if you don't mind saying? He settled back against the trunk, looking relieved. His eyes drifted back to the mango. I kneeled down just beside the water. What's your name? He flinched at the sight of me. Great gods, lad! Find your manners, sneaking about. Something clicked. I didn't know the play, but I knew the part. I bowed from my crouched position. My apologies. I didn't mean to surprise you. Well, that's very good of you. What do you need? I needed 20 minutes to hear his story and find some way to help him, but I couldn't have it. I've been instructed to deliver this letter to you, I said, handing him a parchment from my left pocket. His manacles jangled as he reached and took the letter gingerly as a blade. He broke the seal and frowned at the script. What is this? I feigned confusion and peered at the parchment. It, of course, contained a scrawl of gibberish. Sincerest apologies. My master often tinkers with his pet languages. I must have taken the wrong parchment by mistake. Would you ever mind signing the page just to... I scrambled. My master collects signatures, is all. He didn't bat an eye at my blasphemous mention of a master. He just gave a half shrug. Odd sort. He'll bring that letter soon. I haven't gotten letters in. He trailed off as I dipped my broken quill and passed it to him. He poised the nib over the paper. Ink budded. He shifted his grip, and ink dripped once, twice. He cleared his throat as the blot began to spread. Finally, he pushed the quill and parchment toward me. Nothing comes to mind. It's really the strangest feeling. Would you go by Talabaster? I asked. It's a fine name for the time being. Yes, he said absently, eyes already rising to his mango. Talabaster. I'll be back soon, I promised, tucking my supplies away. He'd returned once more to that secluded corner of his mind, and I slipped quietly into the eldergrain hedge. My plan was nearly blown as a silver cat sidled past me, huge yellow eyes watching. It had no horns or stingers as far as I could see. It purred as it brushed by. When all was still, I entered the clearing with Father. He was still bowed in prayer. For that, I could thank the High Master. I brushed off some twigs and leaves as I looped behind him to settle on the bench. I looked mostly normal, save for the long scrape across my forearm. I'd have to cover for that. I waited several long minutes for Father to begin straightening from his bow. I steeled myself. Stupidity pays twice. He sighed and began to stand. I lurched forward and let my weight pull me off the bench. I landed hard on my arm and cried out. Father turned to see me in a pile. I groaned and pushed myself up. Leg fell asleep. I scraped my arm pretty well, though. Father eyed my arm and helped me to my feet. You're all right, though? Yeah, my leg's feeling better already. He was quiet. After looking around the clearing, he began leading us back along the path. The reaching limbs and vines now seemed more inviting, less aggressive. We were in the thickest of the wood when Father stopped me. You went off. Against the knight's command. Against me. Against your mother. I couldn't deny the fact. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to scare off Luna, the cat, before she distracted you. But I saw a man chained to a tree. I had to help him. Father sighed. You were right to, but you shouldn't have. You know that. I fiddled with the quill in my pocket. But you couldn't help him, Father said. I looked up. How do you know? The ghost of a smile. I did the same at your age. You broke the rule? I made the rule. Father corrected. I had a bit of a sketch with him. Mooney, I called him. I'd bring folk out to watch the skit. But the Baroness wasn't so fond of so many people seeing the curse. Made them uneasy. She posted the nights, and I doubt Mooney has seen more than a few people in the years since. Why was he cursed? I asked. And how long has he been there? Why didn't you visit him today? I don't know, Father said. Some things are best left in memory. You're young. Your best memories lay ahead. Mine don't. But we must live as if they do. Isn't that what Mother wanted? Your mother, Father said, and now he did smile. I see her in you. Your best parts. He brushed a burr off my shoulder. But you've also got me.